The question is from Joyrup Bhattacharya from London. Swamiji, I am Andamayi Ma's grandnephew. Ma was my grandfather's older sister. As a child, I'd had the opportunity to spend time not only with her, but also with the sadhus in her ashram across India. My question is related to Brahman, the supreme reality that some may call God or Parabrahman are the names given by the mind. It's nameless, contentless, effortless, and spontaneous, beyond existence and non-existence. Words can't define it, and the mind can't comprehend it. Would you agree that thinking refracts the supreme reality into names, and perceiving divides it into forms? I understand that nothing is so like God/Brahman as stillness. Mental modifications must come to an end. Thinking and perceiving must stop. The total silence of the mind invites reality to reveal itself as it is. So how does the revelation happen when the mind is not at play? I can intuitively guess that when the mind is not in action, the individuality, sense of I, disappears, and then the light shines upon itself, i.e. Brahman is revealed. Am I right, Swamiji?
Answer is yes, you're right. Yes to all the questions. It's well thought out, well explained. So he starts off, by the way, I didn't know that he was, so that wonderful lineage, his, I think, grand aunt would be Anandamayi Ma, who was a great mystic, a fully realized being. She lived in Bangladesh and India later on for, I think she passed away in the 80s probably. So, all right, so you belong to this wonderful lineage. Yes, you're right. When you say that this is beyond time and space, beyond name and form, it is only thinking that refracts, that gives names to it, and perceiving that creates individuation. And then nothing is as similar to Brahman as stillness, because in stillness that individuality drops away, this thinking stops, perceiving stops, and the reality manifests itself. All good, all good. But the last question had this, I can't quite understand how the reality manifests when the mind is silent. Does it not? It's not at play. When the mind is not at play. But you just said, because it's the mind at play is that which creates distortions. So the mind not at play, and stops playing, the reality manifests itself, according to your own words. And then he says that, is it like this? Is it, what was the last part?
I can intuitively guess that when the mind is not in action, the individuality, sense of I, disappears, and then the light shines upon itself, i.e. Brahman is revealed.
Perfect. And this is called the yogic path, the way of silencing the mind. The mind generates distortions, and if you silence the mind actively, if you fall asleep, it won't work. Then also the mind is silenced. And then also the sense of individuality disappears. Then also your samsara disappears. It's a deep sleep. You don't exist as an individual. Where is your samsara? Everything is gone. It's perfect. But only thing is it's not perfect, because everything is there. It'll all come back in some time when you wake up from deep sleep. But this is the yogic path. The yogic path says the problem is the distortion set up by the mind, as he says. And therefore the solution must be calming the mind down. When you calm down, when you settle the movements of the mind, the reality should shine through. Patanjali Yoga Sutra says, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga, definition of yoga. It's not downward dog. It is the cessation of the play of the mind, the activities of the mind. Swami Vivekananda says, like a lake, when the water is very pure and there are no ripples or waves, you can see straight through to the bottom of the lake. That example he gives. Otherwise, when there are ripples and the water is muddy, then you can't see through to the bottom of the lake. Similarly, when the mind is at play, the reality which is within the mind, which is deeper than the mind, sort of the ground of the mind, or the real nature of the mind, will not manifest itself. This is yogic. But now let me complicate it. There's a little thing which he has said that I can't quite understand, that without the play of the mind, how, in the absence of the activity of the mind, how does it manifest itself? Think about Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, Ma Sharada, Ramana Maharshi and others, whoever is fully enlightened. In the middle of their day-to-day activities, when they are not in samadhi, when Sri Ramakrishna is talking or eating a jalebi or teaching, is his mind functioning or not? Yes. And at that point, is he fully enlightened, or is it everything obscured at that point? He's fully enlightened. So what is it that even when the mind is functioning, the mind is at play, the reality is not obscured? How is that possible? If the functioning of the mind is the main obstacle to reality, then the only way you can have continuous access to your own reality is to remain in samadhi. Stop the mind from playing. One sadhu, I'm just translating in the Himalayas, he said in Hindi, "Lo, apne pyare ko samadhi ke jail khane mein band kar diya." See, you have put your beloved, your God, your beloved in the jail, in the jail of samadhi, and thrown away the keys. The only way you can get access to your beloved God is in that jail of samadhi. Not when you are walking, talking, thinking. The Buddha, in deepest meditation, he came across Bodhi, the enlightenment. Now, if in the deepest meditation, when everything is stilled, the reality shines through, as he has said. But then later, he spent the last 40 years of his life walking, talking, begging for food, instructing, building up a huge monastic organization. So was he distanced from the Bodhi? Was he distanced from reality at that time? No. Therefore, here is the conclusion. Activity of the mind is not the primary obstacle to realization, to enlightenment. According to Advaita Vedanta, the primary obstacle to enlightenment, and Buddhism also, the primary obstacle to enlightenment is ignorance, is not knowing the reality. In deep meditation, when the mind is stopped and the reality shines through and you realize what it is, after that even when the mind is functioning, you still see it. It's like that little kid, I've given this example earlier, who doesn't know what a movie is. Just imagine such a little kid exists. And then the father takes him to a city to show him a movie, a cinema, and says that it's a screen on which there are pictures and there is sound and you can see a story. So when he enters the cinema hall, the movie has started. This is very important because when we enter the cinema hall of our life, the movie has started. If we started at the beginning, we would know everything. But nobody starts at the beginning. It's all going on nicely and we suddenly appear on the scene. And what happens? At first, the kid is immersed in the movie. That's what happens to us. We don't inquire what's the reality of what's going on. No little baby inquires of, mostly. They're immersed in everything that's going on. They're fascinated by the movie. And we remain like that. And most people remain at that baby stage throughout their lives. But some people begin to question, what's going on here? Who am I? What is all this? What's the point of it? Where is all this going? So then they turn up, and ask Swami or something like that. And so the little kid after some time asked his dad, "Dad, so this is the movie?" "Yes." "Where's the screen?" And Dad says, "There." Suppose he's watching Star Wars or something like that, So there. And he says, "Oh, the spaceship is the movie. Spaceship is the screen." No, behind that." "Oh, the planet is the screen." No, behind that. "Oh, behind that is empty space, so the empty space is the screen." No. You just remove all of this, and that's the screen." "Oh, so that means nothing. The screen is nothing." No. all of it together is the screen. Oh, so you mean screen means planets and stars and spaceships and space battles all together? That's the screen. How will the father point out the reality to the kid when there are pictures? Wherever he points, there's a picture, and the kid is going to take the picture as the screen. However, one way of convincing the kid is like what he said. There used to be half times in movies earlier. So the movie is switched off. You can go and get your popcorn or whatever. And when the movie is switched off, first what happens is deep darkness. You don't see yourself, you don't see the screen, you don't see the movie, nothing. That's like deep sleep. But then the lights come on and you see the screen on which without the movie. That's like what he is saying. When the mind is stilled, the play of the mind is stilled, the reality shines through. Not in sleep, through yogic meditation, that conscious stilling of the mind. The reality shines through. But next, an interesting thing happens. The kid sees the screen. And when the movie starts again and there are space battles and spaceships and so on and so forth, the kid is no longer confused. The kid knows these are the pictures and the screen is right there. What I'm seeing is the screen, even with the movie. Similarly, when the mind is at play, after that enlightenment experience, and the world appears, and you are talking, walking, and doing whatever has to be done, all the time, you know that it is Brahman alone. It is that absolute alone which is appearing in all of these ways. There's no doubt about it anymore. You're directly in contact, or you know that you are that. In the case of the movie, you are separate and the screen is separate, and on that a movie appears. But in this case, you are the movie screen and the movie is also nothing but you. I'm using words carefully. You are not the movie, but the movie is nothing but you. You are the screen on which the movie, any movie appears, or no movie can appear, but you can still be there. So this is what happens. There are different models. One is what he has said and what I was discussing, yogic model, stilling the activity of the mind to make the breakthrough. After which, even when the mind is active, it's not a problem. Let me ask you a question. When the kid, after he understands what the screen is, after half time of the movie, he knows what the screen is, and the movie comes on. Now for that kid, is the screen a memory to be recalled, or is he experiencing the screen? You know the difference between memory and experience. You're seeing a person, that's experiencing a person. And when the person is gone, if you remember him, that's memory. You're not experiencing. If the person comes to you a second time, you are experiencing. Memory also comes into play. And what is it called? Recognition. It's an experience. I am experiencing, I am seeing this person, and this is that person I saw earlier. So after, post-samadhi, when you come to a recognition, come to an experience of the world again, what happens? You are experiencing Brahman. And also you are recognizing this is the same thing which appeared, which became clear in samadhi. It's now with the world, with people and everything. So this is the yogic approach. There is another approach. So this depends. The primary method here is the initial samadhi, the stilling of the mind to the deepest meditation possible. An instant's worth of that also is enough to make the breakthrough. Now, there is another way. If you say all this to a bhakta, a devotee, who loves Krishna, for example, or God in some form, still the mind, and the mind is creating all these distortions, they'll be very uncomfortable. They will say, why still the mind? The mind has been given by God. Yes, still all worldly thoughts, shun all worldly thoughts, but replace it. I will think about my beloved Krishna. I am in love with God. You're telling me not to think about my beloved. Why should I do that? I will think more and more about my beloved. I will think only of my beloved Krishna. I will think only of Vrindavan and the service to Krishna, and so all of that, full of thoughts of God. And that is spiritual practice. So the bhakti model is different from this yogic model. Yogic model says, stop, don't think. And I'm just recalling this monk, his meditation instructions. They're like any drill instructor in a parade ground. He said, Hilo mat, don't move. That's it. Bolo mat, don't speak. Then Socho mat, don't think. But for the devotee, I will move around. Why won't I move? I'll sing and dance. I will dance in the name of Krishna. And don't speak. No, why will I not speak? I will take the name of Krishna. I'll do Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Huh? And don't think. No, I will think. I will think thoughts of prayer and love for Krishna. Why not? So that's the different model. That's also correct. But you must not impose this model on that model or that model on this model. They are two different models. That will also get you to the reality. There is a third model, which is what Advaita Vedanta is. Advaita Vedanta says if the whole problem is ignorance, then we should be introduced to knowledge. So without even stilling the mind or without even conceiving of, like Vivekananda said, this Brahman, if you see it from the outside, it is God. Then you have to set up a relationship of love. But if you see it from the inside, I am that Brahman. Inquiry, Vedantic inquiry will get you there. So these are different models. I'm just saying this. And Anandamayi Ma, whom he talked about, she was all of it. She was obviously a devotee. Everybody said she was a devotee. She considered herself a child of God. She would ask to everybody, I'm your daughter. But she was a mystic, a yogi, because often she was in samadhi. Sort of effortlessly she used to go into samadhi. But she was also a jnani, full jnani. Because the professor Arindam Chakravarti, who has seen her a few times, he told me that she said to him and to others gathered around, I'll tell you in Bengali and then I'll translate. A startling teaching from someone who seems to be a complete devotee, dualistic. In Bengali she said, it's a pun. She says, Baba duniyai to dunya. Now I have to explain it. It works in Hindi and Bengali. Dunya is the word for world, samsara, dunya. But the first part of that word is du, means two. So only when you have two, you have samsara. That's what she was saying. It's a strongly Advaitic teaching. When you have no two, there is no samsara.